Are you ready? Stand by.
Welcome to the Three Gun Show, brought to you by Armalite. This is episode 139, and I'm your host, Dave Hartman. My guest is Reuben Aleckson of Vortex Optics. Before we get into the interview, a couple of things. If you enjoy this podcast, you can support the Three Gun Show in a number of ways. I'll get into them real quick here, and there's links for all of them at threegunshow.com/support. You can find affiliate links there to Amazon, Brownells, Cabela's, and Optics Planet. And when you click through and make a purchase using one of those links, we get a commission on what you purchase at no additional cost to you. Also, the Three Gun Show logo t-shirts are for sale there, and you can buy Armalite 3-gun gear, which I'll have details on after the interview. I'm out on the road to be at some of the coolest matches in the country to bring all that good stuff back to you in podcast form and the stories of these matches, so your support in any way definitely helps. I'm in Minnesota right now, and this is my first time shooting a match up here, but I will be back to shoot a really cool match format soon, and I want you to hear about it. So here is Adam Maxwell of Hawkeye Ignite to tell you all about it. Adam, welcome back to the Three Gun Show.
How's it going, buddy?
It's good to have you, man. It's I'm doing well. I'm a little tired. We just got done shooting the Nordic Vortex Trigun, which was a ton of fun.
Yes.
And I'll be featuring that on an upcoming match recon episode.
Yes.
But we're here to talk about another Minnesota match. And when I chatted with you and Sazin back in February at the Three Gun Nation Southwest Regional, I learned all about Minnesota 3-gun. And this is my first experience up here, and I'm pumped to come back for this other match that we're about to talk about. So you have a match coming up in a couple months here.
Yep, August 26th and 27th.
August 26th and 27th, and it is run under Hawkeye Ignite.
Hawkeye Ignite, yes, which is the event promotion wing of the Hawkeye Syndicate.
Right. And this is the Jeff Kirkwald Memorial match.
Yes.
And you have so one of the things that we've talked about in the past, and the reason I want to bring this attention to the attention of the audience here is, one, I'm going to be there, and it's going to be awesome.
Right. We needed to take it up another level.
Yeah.
And the first idea was, got to get Dave.
Dude, you came to me with an idea, and I was like, you know what, man, that's completely out of my comfort zone, so it means I should probably do it.
Yahtzee.
Is that another one of those Minnesota sayings we're talking about?
No, I think it's just a thing that I'm saying until I get tired of it.
So,
I blame Andy Peterson, actually.
Oh, Andy. So, okay, Jeff Kirkwold Memorial Match. It's going to be August 26th and 27th
Yes.
here at Forest Lake Sportsman's Club in Minnesota. And this is a unique match.
Yes.
When you and I spoke, you mentioned that just adding another 3-gun match to the schedule doesn't really do anyone good. You like to add something unique that has like its own little catch to it, right?
Right. So we started doing – this was going to be the fourth annual Jeff Kirkwald Memorial 3-gun presented by JP Rifles. And it started from kind of a sad story. A friend of ours, when we were starting, a group of us were starting to travel about the country and do larger 3-gun matches. For the first time, one of our close friends in that circle passed away due to a brain aneurysm. And one of the things we decided to do in his is a celebration of his life, because we didn't really want to do the mourning thing. We wanted to keep the spirit alive, as we wanted to do this benefit match. And the first thought for a benefit match would be the family if they needed something. Turns out they didn't, or didn't want to. They would prefer be donated to charity. So we selected the Task Force Dagger Foundation. So all proceeds from this match go towards the Task Force Dagger Foundation and the good work that they do. But at the time, and yes, as has become my ethos, is there are so many matches around the country. I mean, there's pretty much one every weekend somewhere with a prize table.
And great matches, too.
Yes, everywhere. And, that's part of the match review or the match recon,
Is how to spend those hard match match dollars.
Where do you go? So I thought, like we had eyes towards growing it into a major match at the time, and I was of the opinion that if you're going to add something to the national schedule, I think you should bring something new to the table. If you're just going to be another 8, 9, 10 stage match, who cares?
With 3 base stages, 3 natural terrain,
Yeah.
1 rifle, 1 pistol, 1 shotgun.
Yeah, a long range stage, a jungle run. There's like this formula now that you can just plop down at any range. So instead, what we wanted to do, 3 Gun Nation was just getting big at the time with their shoot-offs. And there was nowhere outside the Pro Series, there was nowhere to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So the concept is that we would do a shoot-off match. And then, so how do you seed a bunch of people into a shoot-off? A bunch of people are going to get eliminated. How do they get their trigger time in? So the format we settled on was we would shoot 5 stages, accrue some amount of points, and then seed a bracket. And then the bracket whittled down, and that was the prize table.
So this is a cool concept, Adam, because one, it's 2 days of shooting. The first day is the seeding.
Yes.
And the second day is the shoot-off.
Yes.
And you don't need to be top-level pro to do it.
No.
You can be every guy.
Nope.
3-gunner to come do it.
Yep. And you can get that same head-to-head adrenaline rush that we get in the Pro Series, and the competition is fierce. And then kind of an evolution of it, we went to a 2-day format that we're currently doing. Mm-hmm. So day 1 is a 3-gun match with 5 stages, and we bang it all out in one day. And then the second day is the shoot-off, and the shoot-off takes all day. And then also we do, I wouldn't classify it as true double elimination, but everybody who gets knocked out in the first round goes into what we call the second chance bracket. It's completely,
okay.
We seed a completely different bracket. We
You
go off
in
a whole nother bay, and those dudes shoot it out against each other. And they go at it single elimination. And the winner of the second chance bracket gets second pick on the prize table.
Oh, cool.
So there's nothing associated with second chance except if you win it all, you get second pick of the prize table. And then the primary, bracket, first place goes first, then second chance, then third, fourth, through the semifinalists. And then we divide out the prizes by random draw, wait for it, by tier of finish.
Okay.
So the further you progress, so everybody who is in the Sweet 16 gets drawn, and then we go to the next level.
Okay.
And the next level and the next level until we get all the way to the bottom.
I gotcha.
We put everybody in a different hat, and then we pull names that way. So there is merit-based prizes given out, and there is also somewhat of the random, some of the guys who get knocked out, they still get some prizes too. That's how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we shake things up a little bit at the prize table, and for the size we've been a pretty decent prize table, and we're growing the match all the time. So we got some good stuff in store. I know for sure we're gonna have some JP PCCs on the table.
Hey,
we're gonna have
that's the hottest thing going right now.
Ammo, everyone loves ammo. ORM Tech is a big sponsor of our match.
Mm-hmm.
There's gonna be Hyperfire triggers, Vortex Optics for sure, and a few other folks that we're working with too. So that's the basic concept of the match as it has been.
So where do I come into this?
Well, part of what we want to do, there's so many matches with their hands out for prizes, and the whole prize thing is kind of,
it's very difficult to get prizes. It's competition to get prizes pretty much for the table.
I have mixed feelings about it myself. Like,
right.
Are we here about the prizes or are we here about the event? I would much rather make a bigger event. A bigger extravaganza, especially because there's a lot of standing around while we're getting through the first round of eliminations. And so one of the things that came to me when we were at the Three Gun Nation match in Texas, and you were trying to do the live streams, is why don't we do live commentary? So why don't we? We'll do you doing live commentary. We have a color.
Now to put a finer point on the live commentary, you mean a mic'd up announcer,
PA
to the audience that's there.
Yeah,
which is pretty exciting.
Yeah,
never done that before.
Just Hartman doing his thing, and then we got a color personality for you to talk to, and then I anticipate getting guest appearances from industry professionals or professional shooters who are going to be there. I know Rob Tate's going to be there. I know Jesse Tischhauser is going to be there. John Paul from JP Rifles.
Oh, cool.
Is potentially available. We'll see if we can work our way into his schedule. Terry, the proprietor of Hyperfire Triggers. We can get all kinds of people, and so we roll them in throughout the day. But yeah, we can have Three Gun Show live, and then we'll have commentary on the events as they unfold to kind of bring the live show to the next level.
Yeah,
was my hope. So
to make it like an event that people want to go to.
Yes.
Yeah, I dig that. It's an awesome idea.
Yeah.
So are there currently spaces available?
Yes. We have opened the match to 120 people. There are currently 25 slots left.
Okay.
We draw very heavily from the 5-state area, but looking to pull more folks in from around the country. That's why we invite some of our friends from the Pro Tour to come check it out, and hopefully they bring more of their friends to check it out, because I'm excited about the format because it's different.
Yeah. Sounds like a fun format.
And a lot of people look at it on the surface and they think of it like a conventional 3-gun match, like, oh, there's only 5 stages.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's still a full round count major match. It's just different than the product that you're normally used to going to. So
cool. Well, I'm totally pumped for this, Adam. If folks want to come up here and try their hand at the match and the shoot off, and potentially have us heckle them a little bit on the PA.
Yes.
How would they do that?
Well, check it out. We have the JKM 3-gun event segment on our website, HawkeyeIgnite.com, that has the pertinent information and the links to practice score and all that stuff. You can also check out the Hawkeye Ordnance YouTube channel. There are compilation videos of past years.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see what we got going on. And then, stay tuned to the website and our Facebook page, the Hawkeye Ignite Facebook page, as the details roll out when we get closer.
Awesome, Adam. Well, thank you for sharing the story of your friend, and let's make this an awesome match in his memory.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it, man. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a celebration every year, and it gets bigger and bigger. We're gonna have two demo side matchy stages going on. JP's got one. I think Hyperfire's got another one. They're going to be showcasing some products, and then we got shoot-offs going on. So there's lots of primer denting going to be happening at the end of August up here. So
nice. All right. So HawkeyeIgnite.com.
HawkeyeIgnite.com.
And look for the JKM 3-gun match there.
sign up for it, come see us, and we're going to have some fun in August.
Yes.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Reuben Aleckson was on the podcast back in episode 113, and that was the first time I met him, actually. I knew him as the marketing guy at Vortex Optics, but since then, I've gotten the opportunity to shoot a few matches with him, and it turns out Reuben is a strong 3-gunner as well. Recently, Reuben took 5th at the Hornady Zombies in the Heartland match, and we decided to chat about his breakthrough on the podcast when I visited Vortex on my way to Minnesota from Kentucky. Side note, I got to meet a lot of the people at Vortex as Reuben was giving me a tour, and the overwhelming feel of that environment was super friendly. Their focus on customers isn't just a marketing thing, and you can see that in everything they do, including like how big their customer service department is. Like you can call there and get an actual person right away. It's pretty cool. Also notable is that just a few days ago, as I record this, we shot the 2017 Nordic Vortex Trigun, and again, Reuben took 5th in Tac-Ops. You'll hear us talk a lot about goal setting and managing your performance in this interview, so it's pretty cool to see that Reuben was once again top 5. Show notes can be found at 3gunshow.com/episode 139. Now enjoy this one with Reuben Aleckson. Reuben, welcome back to the 3-Gun Show.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
It's good to have you, and thanks for having me.
Hey, it's good to have you here.
To set the stage for the audience here, we're in one of the fantastic meeting rooms at Vortex Optics,
Middleton, Wisconsin.
This is my first time here, so I've cruised through Madison a couple times, which is just adjacent town.
Yeah, like Middleton is kind of a suburb on the western side of Madison. And
Right.
Madison is the capital of Wisconsin. We're in south central portion of the state.
Right, and so this is the first time that I've spent any time here, and of course took the dog to the lake,
Mhm.
let him cool down a little bit, and kind of enjoyed just a day kicking around Madison yesterday.
It's kind of nice to not have anything to do once in a while.
It is. Well, so I set that up knowing that we were going to hang out on Tuesday
Mhm.
because the podcast comes out on Wednesday. So I spent the daylight hours screwing around, just enjoying myself. And then in the evening, I worked on the podcast, got that all loaded up and everything. And then here we are doing another one.
Excellent. Well, it's been a good day so far. I'm looking forward to recording with you.
It has been a good day. So let's take folks through Vortex, like a little bit of a mental tour if we can. So walking this morning, you guys have like a showroom up front that kind of, I would say, reminds me of like the optics area of like a major retailer, like firearms retailer or outfitter or something like that.
Yeah, we're kind of our kind of the building is it's almost like a strip mall. Like it's an industrial park.
Mm-hmm.
But we're, it's like a storefront, and then the backside is storage, and that's kind of how we started. As in the optics industry, was we had like one suite out of this building, and I think there's like 16 or 17 suites in the building, and we occupy all but 2 of them now. And then we have a building across the street as well, which is a warehouse for binocular repair and spotting scope repair, and then we have a clean room also in the same building over there, which is assembly for Razor AMGs and Razor Gen 2s, as well as Vortex Rent-A-Car. And
A lot of vans,
we got people that got to go places.
apparently.
And those Toyota vans, they're kind of sleepers. They got some balls.
Yeah, like years ago, I saw like a Motor Trend article where they took like a 60-something muscle car and like a 2005 Honda Odyssey
Mm-hmm.
and ran them side by side, and the Honda Odyssey like whooped up on it.
Oh yeah, I've got faith in the Siennas. But to go back a little bit to kind of when you walk into Vortex, we got, like you said, a showroom set up.
Mhm.
We've got there's a couple of display cabinets with some of our optics, and there's a warranty cabinet on the corner, which we got to take a look at when we go back out.
Okay.
Warranty cabinet, we call it our VIP cabinet, and that's it kind of reminds us of the warranty, because there's stuff that's been shot, there's stuff that's been dropped. The kicked in the binos, binoculars are in there. There's rifle scopes from fires, and there's binoculars where a guy was out on a hunt and he fell asleep a little too close to the bonfire or something like that.
Oh wow.
So, and then there's obviously display cases with all the optics that we manufacture and sell. And right in the same room is our sales department, consumer sales, and our marketing team all sits out right in front. That's where we interact with the customers that come in. And we do have a good amount of local customers that come in. You wouldn't necessarily think of it being, in an industrial park on kind of the western edge of the city.
Mm-hmm.
But we get a fair amount of people that, even if they're just coming through Madison, traveling, they want to stop in and see Vortex.
Yeah, it would never have occurred to me that there would be a lot of like local traffic, I guess. Because for me, like when I think of like buying something, maybe I think of going to the store or, one of the online retailers or something. But maybe it being a like Madison company? Is this a source of pride to like I'm going to go where the people are that built this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not always super comfortable talking about like us because we're very customer focused company, but it is cool to go to a local restaurant. You see 3 or 4 trucks or 3 or 4 vehicles in the parking lot with Vortex decals, and walking through a store and somebody's wearing a Vortex T-shirt.
Yeah.
Most people wouldn't think of that with Madison, Wisconsin, just being where we are and what Madison is known for, politically, I guess.
Yeah.
But it is cool because there's a very big deer hunting heritage here in Wisconsin. The competitive shooting in terms of long range, like the F-class shooting and bench rest, is actually pretty big here too, because there's a lot of prominent barrel manufacturers, folks from Krieger and Criterion and Bartlein and Brooks and Obermeyer. There's a good bunch of barrel manufacturers around us that they call it the barrel belt.
Oh yeah.
And then we have some really cool AR manufacturers and gun part manufacturers as well. We've got Midwest Industries and BCM. We've got American Defense, Griffin Industries, and then our mutual friend Rob from Luvata, the brass company. They're up here.
That has quite a bit to do with the ammunition industry quietly. Not a whole lot of people know that. It's kind of behind the scenes.
You don't see a lot of their name on things, but it is kind of funny when you talk to people in the ammo industry, or when you talk to even like talking to Rob from Luvata. They have their hand in about everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's pretty incredible. And then also same town as Luvata is RCI X-Rail.
Yep, absolutely.
Man,
our buddy Mark.
Yep. Man, there's just like a ton of firearms related stuff around here. And even bigger when you expand to the outdoor. You were telling me there's like bow manufacturers.
Yeah, so Wisconsin has Matthews Archery. They have Matthews and Mission. There's a handful of tree stand manufacturers. There's like I won't even pretend to know all the different outdoor companies that are based in Wisconsin, but it's huge because the Midwest is a huge place for people to play outside.
Yeah.
And they do it especially when the weather's nice out like it is now. And so you've also crossed the border into Minnesota, where we'll be next week.
Yep.
You've got Nordic Components and Federal Ammunition, and there's a bunch of companies over in that area as well.
Yeah, pretty incredible with the if you took like a big swath and just made it center of the country, turned it into like a French or Mexican flag, and there was 3/3.
Yep.
That big center third is where like a ton of firearms manufacturing takes place.
Yeah, and if you go just south of us too, down into Illinois and Iowa, you've got Rock River, you've got LMT. There's like the Quad Cities has a huge number of gun companies.
Yeah. Well, if you said Illinois, right?
Yep.
So then there's
Springfield.
Armalite's there, Springfield's there.
Yep.
You said Rock River, and then of course Iowa's got Brownells.
Yep.
Man, how do we get on this topic?
That's a good question. I don't know. We'll have to cut that out.
Well, so take it back to Vortex here. So you showed me a bunch of cool stuff around this place, and you took me back to the manufacturing area, because I think I told you in the past, like I'm a real big manufacturing nerd. I just love watching stuff being built. And I was kind of joking with one of your guys here that if we go to the beer plants, I'm watching like all the bottles go down the line while people are going through the taste testers. I love watching stuff being built, especially like multiple things all at once. Just like something satisfied in my head about seeing the same thing over and over and over again. But the machinery that you guys have here is unique, and I've been in a lot of machine shops. I don't know if I told you this, but I used to travel around to machine shops all around the country to make sure stuff was getting built on time.
Yep.
And the machinery you guys have here is super specialized and able to hold like super tight tolerances.
Yeah, so being in the sport optics industry, we have rifle scopes, binoculars, spotting scopes, all kinds of accessories. And then 4 or 5 years ago, we stepped into the like the tactical scope market with some of our high-end Razor products. The Razor Gen 2 became a very, very prominent optic in PRS. The Razor Gen 2 4.5 to 27 and 3 to 18 in particular. And then the obviously the Gen 2 1 to 6, which a lot of people are running in 3-gun. So those lines of scopes have been really what drove us to pursue a lot of that type of the market, like the competition, the tactical, law enforcement, military type stuff. And so we have the Gen 2 Razors. To give you a little backstory, we saw some of the parts that are getting made for those in-house here. But then the Gen 2 Razor is a long-range tactical scope, right?
Mm-hmm.
The performance of it is, I think it's unrivaled in terms of mechanical, the durability, the mechanical soundness of it, I guess you would say, like its ability to repeat as you dial up and down, left to right, and out to distance. And yet one thing that we had was we had a lot of people that love the performance of the Gen 2 but wanted to see it in a little bit lighter of a package. And so that drew us to pursue that kind of scope, which has the long-range performance attributes, but also in a little bit lighter, smaller package. And so to do that and to bring all of that manufacturing in-house, just the tolerances that we need to maintain, like kind of like, we were talking, there's some parts on that scope that we're trying to maintain plus or minus 3 or 4 microns, and even a couple parts that are even tighter than that.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And, like a human hair is 90 to 100 microns, so we're splitting a human hair 40 to 50 times.
That's insane.
And so a lot of that machinery that we kind of saw, it's way above my head. I'm not even going to pretend to understand what has to happen in order to make that, work. But there's some pretty special stuff going on back there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, back where I used to work, we'd have machinists complain if an engineer had 10 thousandths as the tolerance on a, plus or minus 10 thousandths as a tolerance on a drawing. They'd be like, why do you need to hold that so tight? Like, well, listen, Vortex can 2 microns.
And like that's not everything we make, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for the AMG 6-24 rifle scope, which is a lot of the same attributes as the Gen 2 Razors, even with better glass quality, yet to try and shave 20 ounces off of that, like as you can imagine, you're keeping parts a lot smaller,
mm-hmm.
and when you have to fit everything into a little bit less real estate, I mean, you have to maintain tighter tolerances. And so to be able to do what we do at the weight that scope is, it's kind of, don't really have a choice.
Yeah. Well, so then from there, once we checked out the machining operations and went back and saw where they actually repair scopes that people send in.
Yep.
And it's pretty cool. You showed me some relics back there of stuff that had been in a fire and completely rebuilt.
Yeah, the guys back in repair are awesome. They as you can imagine, get in some pretty interesting ones.
Yeah.
Once in a while, they get one in with a bullet hole, or like you mentioned, one from a fire, and like there's a couple of them that they've just kept the tube that burned in the fire and built an entirely new scope out of it, and new glass, new components. It's a completely working scope. It just looks like it's been in a house fire.
Yeah. It was kind of weird to hold it. You're like, oh yeah, this one's trash, and then you just look through it, and it, looks just as crisp and clear as the next one.
Yeah. No, it's pretty cool, especially looking at the equipment that they get to work with. I showed you one of those collimators that they're looking through to do tracking tests on a scope when something comes in and people want to know if it needs to be repaired.
Yeah, so for folks that are listening, what's a collimator? What does that do?
So a collimator is something, it's basically you're looking into a tube that looks like a telescope.
Mm-hmm.
And in front of that tube you have a cradle or a set of rings or a Picatinny rail. And you can mount a scope to that. And what you can do is you can clamp that scope in place so that it doesn't move. And the collimator has a reticle, a mil scale or an MOA scale reticle in it. And what you'll do is you'll the focal distance of that reticle is set to at 100 yards, right? So it'll appear as if it's 100 yards away. And so then you would put a scope on that, And what you can do is you can do a tracking test, dialing your reticle up and down, left to right. You can do box tests, or you can check the reliability and the repeatability of a scope without having to drive 20 miles to the range and shoot it. And you can actually take the human error out of it by taking the trigger jerk out of it,
Right.
So we have you'll see those collimators all over the building. Guys up in sales have them just to test when a customer comes in the front room to see if a scope isn't working properly.
Huh.
And then guys, back in repairs and inspection, and pretty much every department uses them in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I got to mess around with one too, with one of the red dots, and
Yeah, you had
got to
this.
see
You had
how
the
it worked.
Spitfire on there,
Yeah.
and that looked like it was a little hard to see because it's only 3 power, but
Right.
still, hopefully you got the idea of it.
No, yeah, it totally was. I have pretty decent eyesight, but it was actually pretty cool to be able to see like how it works.
Yeah.
And it was totally trippy because you're making the adjustments and you're watching the reticle move over to the center of what I saw was the reticle moving over to the center, and then you can watch it move up and down and stuff like that, and it's just like you're sitting out there on bags
Yep.
in front of a target.
Yeah, dialing it in.
Yeah, only you can do it inside.
Yeah, it's they're really, they're an essential piece of gear. If you ever watch on YouTube like factory tours from other optics manufacturers, you'll see those
Yeah.
kind of scattered throughout. And I remember the first time I was like, "What the heck is that thing?"
Yeah, well, and once I got to use that back there in the rebuild area, I immediately noticed them all over the place.
Yeah,
Yeah, but had just walked past them.
the neon green color that the piece of I-beam they're mounted to is also kind of sticks out.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and so from there we went to testing, and then we wrapped the tour by taking a tour of the new facility that Vortex is building.
Yeah, that was fun, and I'll tell you what, it's cool to see that in every stage. I think I mentioned this. We broke ground about a year and 2 months ago, so last March.
Yeah, see that photo up there? It says 2016.
Yeah, and so having that, it's been changing every week. That I drive by it once in a while, and to everybody listening, it's about 24 miles south and to the west of Madison. So it's in a little town called Barneveld. And I think it's only a town of 1,000 or so people, but they've been extremely, extremely helpful bringing us in, getting us, part of a like a development business park to build on, and they've just had their arms open wide for us. So we're really excited to go out there, and the building is pretty cool, like you mentioned. It kind of gives you goosebumps going through it. Because to set the stage, like we're here in this industrial park that we rent out of, and they've been great here, and but it's time to go to our own spot.
Yeah. Well, and the cool thing that that you kept pointing out as we were going through is this area does not have a definition yet. We don't know who's going to be in this area, and it gives you so much room to expand, and so it's cool to see like that very far out view and plan for a company.
Yeah, we're definitely very grateful to our customer base that we have. We're able to plan out into the future, and we, like you said, there's some areas of the new building that aren't quite yet spoken for in terms of who's going to be sitting there. But I'll tell you this, from a couple months ago, we had several spaces that were not defined as what they're going to be, and even in the last couple of months they've been slowly filling up. So it's a good thing we built a little bigger than originally planned. But it's a really cool space. It's out kind of overlooks the business park, kind of overlooks a nature preserve, and just a gorgeous view. And we're pretty stoked.
Yeah, the cool thing about that view that you were mentioning is that it's right off the showroom, so people can test out spotting scopes and binoculars and everything.
Yeah, I think if you looked at like the absolute distant field that you could see like 2.5 miles away.
Yeah.
And of course, we probably have to go and talk to the landowner and say, hey, can we put a resolution chart out here? They'd have to be okay with it, but yeah, we could nonetheless. You have a lot of natural stuff that you could look at too, trees and rocks and deer.
Sure.
It's a really wild area, just absolutely like right connected to the new building.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to have that availability, especially when you're an optics company, right?
Yeah, and Kenny's drainage pond. Can't forget about that.
What did you call it? Lake what now?
Lake Calhoun.
Lake Calhoun. Yeah, there's a drainage pond. It's going to be stocked with fish coming soon.
I see you, Kenny.
Well, Reuben, one of the other things I wanted to talk about here today is the Hornady Zombie match. Hornady Pandemic. There's 13 different names for this match.
Yeah, so I think they kind of shortened the name this year. It used to be like the Hornady Manufacturing Pandemic 2016 Zombies in the Heartland 3-gun event invitational. This year it was Zombies in the Heartland.
Oh, okay. So the 2017 Zombies in the Heartland, you had a pretty good performance at it. And back when we shot the Vortex Shooter Source Texas 3-gun champion, or Vortex Shooter Source 3-gun championship in Crescent, you had a pretty good performance there too. And so we got on the phone last week and we were talking about, making plans for me coming here and everything. And we got talking about 3-gun as we often do when we're talking on the phone.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I can't figure it out. But I wanted to talk to you about something interesting that you brought up to me is you said these are the goals that I set out for myself, and this is how I'm achieving them. So let's talk about those goals, and then let's talk about those matches as well, and how you placed in them. So what are the goals that you set for yourself in 2016, 2017, as far as 3-gun goes?
Well, I mean, I started shooting 3-gun back in 2011 or late 2010 or 2011.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I shot my first match up in Minnesota. It was a club match. And I had just shot USPSA pistol stuff before that, kind of as a hobby, getting out of school and wanted a competitive outlet. And so I started doing that, and then that led to 3-gun because a lot of the same people I shot USPSA with were also, 3-gun shooters, and Brian Payne kind of twisted my arm one day to shoot 3-gun, and so I tried it out and I loved it, kind of like all of us who are doing it as much as we are today, like something you want to pursue. And so
well hang on, let's talk about that you mentioned Brian Payne. Let's talk about that experience real quick, because I think that's one of the cooler stories I've heard about 3-gun. And so Brian Payne is Tyler Payne from the AMU and Nathan Payne's father.
Yep.
Right. So he was
kind of like one of the godfathers of 3-gun here in the Midwest, going all the way back to way before my time in 3-gun.
Yeah.
In the DPMS Tri-Gun Challenge. But yeah, Brian, he shot USPSA with us on Tuesday nights in St. Cloud, Minnesota, and I remember going to a local 3-gun match at St. Cloud area practical shooters, and I was just there to watch, and he was like, "What are you doing here?" He recognized me from USPSA. I was the new guy still.
Right.
I was like, "Oh, I just kind of want to watch," and he's like, "Nope, you're shooting." And I was like, "Oh no, no, thank you, sir. I'm just gonna watch." And he was like putting his belt on me before I could even say, And so he borrowed me equipment and helped me shoot my first match and coached me through it. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is something I got to do. But that kind of brings up another point. Is like, I always try and remember that whenever somebody that I talk to is like, I'm kind of interested in 3-gun. Like, I go out of my way because I'm trying to pay it forward from what was done for me. Because there's guys that will shoot their first match and maybe it's not a good experience because they had the wrong gear or because they didn't have anybody to teach them, and so they got DQ'd on the first stage because nobody knew they were new. So that's something I always kind of since then have tried to do is like, anytime I see somebody that's starting out, like try and just open the door for them and try and make it easy for them. Because that's why I kept doing it, was because my first time shooting a match was very enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what new people in the sport, let's take a little tangent here real quick as we do on the 3-gun show quite a bit. What is something that anyone can do for a new person in the sport to help them along on their 3-gun journey?
I think the stuff that seems obvious to us as experienced shooters or people who have been doing it for a while, try and remember back to when you're starting something, whether it be competitive shooting or skateboarding or snorkeling or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The things that you didn't know that all the people who had been doing it forever were just second nature to them. Try and remember that, because it might not seem like something that an experienced shooter would have to tell somebody, but oh no, this is how you put your belt on. Well, this is a belt keeper. This is why you use it. No, don't put your holster so far forward. But something that everybody can do is give advice, whether it be on safety protocols or whether it be on range commands. I mean, just even telling somebody what the range commands are. And borrowing gear. Those are the big things. Make it easy for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a bag of gear that I always carry with me in my truck, and a lot of it's stuff that I used at one point but don't use anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so literally I just drag it around the country with me. But every once in a while there is someone that needs an extra shell caddy or needs a universal mag pouch or something like that. That type of stuff really helps.
One thing I've done with my gear is I found it to be more, rather than just find the first person that is shooting a new match, their first match, rather than just being here, you can have this gear, because it probably isn't tailored exactly to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
The belt might not fit, the holster might not be the holster they want. But I'd given some gear away, and I'm sure it served its purpose for a while, but then it wasn't being used.
Mm-hmm.
So like you do, I just keep gear with me rather than just give it away.
Yeah.
I think it is of better use to keep it and then borrow it to people as needed.
Yeah, because you can lend it out dozens of times.
I've lent gear out for 8 months at a time, and then it comes back to me, but it was being used that whole time.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they used it once and then just kept it because somebody gave it to them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way to do it, I think.
Yeah.
All right, so we just learned about your start in Minnesota 3-gun,
Mm-hmm.
and where did you go from there once you decided you wanted to shoot this?
Oh, I mean, I think I shot mostly local matches for the first 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
just because it wasn't either it wasn't in the books when I was in college to go to a big major match, but I also wanted to be prepared when I started shooting bigger matches, so I didn't really do any major match shooting for the first, I would say, year and a half at least.
Right.
Focused mostly on pistol shooting, but shot all of the local matches, which back then there was probably only 4 or 5 a year, and now up in the Midwest, which you're about to experience firsthand, you can shoot 5 matches a month.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was talking to Adam Maxwell yesterday, and we were doing some planning for the Minnesota or the Trigun, right?
yeah,
And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to hang out a couple of days afterwards because I want to visit JP, I want to visit this, I want to visit this, and
he's like, oh, you can shoot Wednesday night with us.
that's exactly what he said. I was like, really, dude? 2 days after a major match?
Oh yeah, those guys are crazy, but they also have a lot of people to help. I mean, not to downplay it at all, but they have a great community up there of people that are just willing to dig in and set up targets and get their hands dirty just because they love to shoot. And I think that's one thing that we all learn at some point in time, is that if you really want to shoot, sometimes you kind of have to get your hands dirty, because there isn't always somebody that's as driven as you to do it.
Yeah, and it really does take a lot of people to be able to put stuff like this on in the amount of time that's done. And when you're talking about the frequency of a Wednesday evening 3-gun match,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, you've got to have a lot of volunteers to do that.
Yeah, they have a great crew up there.
Definitely. So then you shot 2 years of local matches.
Yep. Like I said, primarily just shot local matches, moved to southeastern Minnesota, shot with the guys down there, and kind of, I don't know, just worked on making myself a better shooter, working on the little things, kind of progressively. I guess, I don't know if I would use the term floating, but I wasn't focused at all on what I wanted to accomplish with shooting. And so I kind of just accepted the better match placements on local matches, just kind of oh yeah, just over time you just get better. But then you've probably seen this too. At a certain point, you kind of plateau off. And you're like, if you don't have a goal and you don't know what you're trying to accomplish with it, you're probably going to stay at the same spot.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was kind of, I'm terrible at talking about myself, so I'm sorry for this. But for me,
It's going to be real boring then, dude.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try. But for me, kind of that was that, like, sitting outside the bubble point for like the last probably 2 seasons of really, like, trying to make individual parts of the game better, trying to make movement better, more efficient, trying to improve my long-range rifle shooting, trying to improve offhand rifle shooting, continuing to work on pistol game, shotgun reloading, all of this stuff. And then once you get to a point where, like, your shooting is good, then you work on something else. And so I would work on individual parts of the game, like stage planning last year was, like, my big thing. That was having a memorized stage plan, you know, kind of like reading with winning in mind, how you're kind of just replaying the stage. Once the timer goes off, you're kind of just replaying the stage and watching it play out because you've already done it in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, like, one thing that I really focused on last year. And watching, like, 12th place, 15th place, 17th place, 11th place happen at major matches that I shot, like, kind of like, what the heck? I'm not going anywhere. And, like, last year the goal was, there was no goal. It was kind of just to individually work on different parts of the game. And coming out of last year, the last match I shot was hard as hell. And I was like, going into this match, I want to shoot top 10. But I know there's an incredible amount of really good rifle shooters at a match in a western state where, you know, they shoot rifle out there. Like, me and Maxwell go out to hard as hell, and we're like, man, these boys can shoot rifle. That was, like, the first thing we said when we were watching the stage ahead of us. And so we've seen that, too, at Ironman for the last few years. These guys out west just flat out shoot rifle. And so I was like, you know what? I want to shoot top 10 at this match. And was well on my way and had a couple of mistakes, had a couple of poor stages and a bunch of great stages, and finished, I think, 13th in my, you know, in tactical. And so that was like, all right, well, I set a goal and I worked towards it, and I'm not good when I set a goal and don't accomplish it. It's like, okay, when's the next match? I have to accomplish this. And of course, being up here in the Midwest, you know, you're pretty much done shooting in October.
Cue Rocky montage of you punching a side of beef and lifting the wagon, training in the wintertime.
Yeah, just trying to figure out what you can do in the winter sometimes is really challenging. But one thing I did shooting, you know, I figured out that movement was where I needed to work on over the winter, and it's something that you can work on. I mean, one of the things that, like, you don't have to have a gun in your hand to practice movement, right?
Right.
And so shooting indoor, you know, PCC, where instead of shooting pistol, you know, I'd shoot PCC to practice offhand rifle shooting. And that kind of brought me into this year, which I was like, okay, all right, you got a kid now, life's getting busier. You have to start accomplishing some of these goals, or you're going to be like sitting here 3 years down the road and like, all right, what actually am I trying to accomplish within competitive shooting? And so I set goals for this year, and that was like the biggest thing, and it was also kind of like the simplest thing, but it was something that I definitely just needed to do and have something to work towards. And so I set a goal this year of having a top 5 match finish. Like that was something I thought, you know, I talked to my buddy Joel Turner down at the AMU, and he's like, well, what are your goals for this year? And I was like, no, I'm going to finish in a top 10 at a match, at a major. And he was like, well, why not make it top 5? And I was like, oh, come on, man. Don't be ridiculous. And so he was like, no, just, you know, if you set a top 5 goal, you're going to finish top 10. And so my, you know, going down to Texas, my first match of the year was the 3 Gun Nation Regional, and I think I was like 23rd or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of like, well, I haven't shot all winter. You know, I haven't shot a match outside. It was the first time I touched my rifle in like 2 months. It was the first time I'd actually got out and shot my new pistol. And, it's blizzarding up here and it's like 65 and sunny down there. So I was okay with it. I was like,
you guys look so happy to be there.
Oh man, it was beautiful. Knocking the rust off. Kind of just said, you know what? It's that's what it is. Like I put out a good match and shot fairly well. Had a couple of stages I would take away. And on the way back from that, my buddy Rob Tate, who we rode down with, he was talking, and he's really good at like being totally blunt. I don't know if you've ever met Rob Tate, like he's perfectly okay telling you like where you suck.
Yeah.
And he does it in a loving way, right? He's like
that
man,
match actually, the Southwestern Regional was the first time that I'd met or shot on a squad with Rob Tate.
Yeah, and Rob's great at saying, hey, you did really good at that, but if you wouldn't have sucked there, you would have done even better. And I'm like, oh, thanks, Rob. I hate you. And he's a super good guy, man.
Mm-hmm.
One of our sponsored shooters and a guy that's been just a super great addition to the Vortex shooting team. And so now he lives in Wisconsin, and so I owe him a lot because he's done a lot to coach me through, like setting goals and what you need to work on. Like, hey, and he's okay telling me like, hey, you wasted a lot of time moving there, or you fumbling shotgun shells wasted you 5 seconds, where if you would have just taken another 1 second to load it, you would have done it clean. And so Rob was like, hey, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. That we know. Work on these things. And so come back up the next match. I believe was the Minnesota Regional.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if it was the Texas match or the Minnesota Regional. I think it was the Minnesota Regional. Whatever. We'll just edit out if I was wrong. That's how this works, right?
We don't edit.
Okay. Well,
God, what was it?
either way, I had the Three Gun Nation Midwest Regional and then the Vortex Shooter Source Texas match.
Yeah.
So went back down to Texas. That was the Minnesota Regional.
Was it?
Yeah, I believe so.
No, because it was Texas then Minnesota. Because I know there was a big match in between the Southwestern Regional and the Minnesota Regional.
Okay. I trust you. Either way.
I don't know if I'd trust me.
My second match
You
of the
keep talking,
year.
I'll check the calendar.
The second match of the year, whichever one it was.
Okay.
Had a slightly better performance. Not where I wanted to be. But, hey, I had an excuse. I had pneumonia. So I was like, you know what? That's all right. It is what it is. I'm pretty positive it was the Minnesota Regional match.
So the Shooter Source, Vortex Shooter Source 3-gun match was the 21st through 23rd of April. And the 3-gun, I'm thinking of the 3-gun Nation Easter. Oh, the Midwest, you're right. The Midwest Regional was April 8th and 9th.
Yeah,
so then the Texas match was 21st through 23rd.
Because I went Texas, Minnesota, Texas.
Yes.
So
glad we get that figured out.
Fast forward through an absolutely kind of gross 3-gun Nation Midwest Regional where I was coughing my guts up like the whole time. Had no energy, but still shot the match, and it was a lot of fun. Go down to Texas. I'm like, all right, top 10 at this match. Then I started to look at the field of competitors, and I was like, man, there's some stud shooters there.
Yeah.
Like, truly, you've been in Texas for the last year, like, there's some awesome shooters down there.
There are a bunch of great shooters in Texas. And you talk about, like, the wide open West for rifle shooting. Like, Texas, there's so much land and so much space. And a lot of dudes have the ability to shoot several hundred yards in their backyard.
Yeah.
And I can't think of one range that we shoot matches on that is restricted on distance. Like, regularly on local matches, you're shooting 450 yards. On local matches.
Yeah, that's huge. Like, that does so much, like, for the overall reputation of an area. Kind of like the matches out in Utah or the matches in Idaho where they can shoot to 300-400 yards at a local. At a Saturday club match.
Mm-hmm.
You see that just by traveling out to those areas and working, on match sponsorships. That's part of the thing I do here. We get to go to a lot of matches. And so you'll go to an area and immediately like, wow, those people are amazing at shooting rifle.
Mm-hmm.
Or, wow, these guys must have an awesome pistol club local because they'll shoot pistol over any other gun if they can. And so, anyways, went down to Texas, and I think the biggest thing with that was that I basically told myself I couldn't make top 10 because I was looking at the group of guys that were on the top of like the, looking at registration and like, okay, that guy's really good. That guy's really good. The Daniel Jurassic, the Nick Millers, those guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so looking at that, I was like, I definitely caused myself to doubt my goals. I'm like, all right, well, I'll be okay with this. All right, come out like 13th or something like that at the end of the match. But at that match, I definitely had one stage that took me out of the top 10.
Really?
And so inconsistency was the thing that I think really bit me in the butt down there, was because I'd have a great stage and then to have an okay stage. And I would come off of a great stage and not take the time to think about what made it a great stage. Not like looking back, what I did right. I would come off and be like, that was awesome. And then you're kind of on a high for a little while. And then before you know it, you're up to shoot at the next stage and you haven't taken the time to take notes on it or to walk through it properly. And so I think for me, that's like the inconsistency is really what I finally narrowed down as like my main issue that was hindering me from kind of reaching those goals. So then come back up, had a couple of months of work, had a couple of shows, and no matches. Next big match, the Hornady Pandemic Zombies in the Heartland Invitational
2017
Pro-Am. So I had Zombies in the Heartland and was going out there with my buddy Rob Tate and Ryan and Travis from here at Vortex, and then Jimmy Hamilton from Vortex and one other guy from Vortex. So we had like big crew of Vortex guys. And going out there, again, like sticking my goals, like, all right, I'm not going to doubt myself. I'm not going to have an inconsistent match. I'm going to figure out what it is. When I have a good stage, I'm going to figure out what I did right. When I have a bad stage, I'm going to move on. But I think the main goal is not to have bad stages. Like, that's like the secret sauce I've recently figured out is just don't have any bad stages. You'll have a good match.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's so simple. Just do really good on every stage, and you'll have a great match.
Shoot fast, don't miss, suck less.
Yeah, so you can say that, right? You can say, like, I just got to shoot a consistent match. Just got to be consistent.
Yeah.
And not have any bad stages. But, like, what makes that? Like, what
do
you have to do to put that together? Because that's also individual pieces of a puzzle. And, again, like you and I talk, nothing is ever really, like, your original idea.
Sure.
Right? But what works for you is a compilation of other people's input and your experiences put together to figure out what works for you. And that's kind of, I would say, like what I was able to find out for me, what works. It goes from resting, don't be up all night the night before. Nutrition, like figure out what works for you before a stage. Hydration, like it was 90 to 95 degrees at the match. Staying hydrated was huge. There was a lot of guys that didn't, and seeing that, they, their scores reflected it on the stages where they had issues. Because when you become dehydrated, again, this is something Rob told me, so I'm just spewing out parts of info that other people give me. But when you become dehydrated, your vision suffers because it's a non-essential, right? You can live without your eyesight. So you become, things become slower. Like your eye twitch movement is slower. Your pupils become less dilated. Like you see things in slow motion. And that's not the good kind of slow motion that you want to see things in when you're shooting, but everything feels fuzzy. And so staying hydrated, like it affects you so much more than you would ever think. So that was a big thing.
Cognition as well. Like just your brain computing power when you're dehydrated is far, far diminished. It's incredible. We even learned in like Cub Scouts, 20 years ago, when people get dehydrated, they don't bring enough water on a hike, they start to make bad decisions. And it's like, oh, we'll just take the shortcut back, and now it's not even on a trail, and then they end up dying.
Yeah, and that never happened to me, thankfully enough. But That would have been really unfortunate. But like one thing, right? So one thing I've noticed is I've had several matches that I've shot, and again, I hate talking about myself, but I've had several matches that I've shot where I've had a great day. Like on a 4-stage day, I've had 3 just lights out stages. I've had a couple matches where I've had stage wins. Like 2 years ago at the Nordic tactical shotgun match, I had 2 stage wins in one day. And for me, that was like my best day ever of competition shooting. Like at a major match, to have 2 stage wins overall, I was like ecstatic. And I've had good days of shooting where I've had 3 stages done, and you're kind of like holding your breath, just trying to make it through the last stage without like making a big mistake and screwing it up. And that's usually where I find myself struggling, is because like the end of a long day, you're on your feet, and you find yourself like, well, I just have one more stage left. Just got to make it through one more stage. And you have to run through the finish line. Like, don't run to the finish line, run through it. And that's like, that was something football coach and baseball coaches just drilled in you, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't just run to the finish line. And so that was something that I tried to keep in mind. Like, so at the Zombies in the Heartland match, had day 1, shot really well, and got to the end of day 1, had 1 stage left to go. I'm like, okay, what do I got to do? What have I forgotten to do? Because you're kind of sitting on a high. I've had 3 good stages today.
Yeah.
Okay, got to remind myself to eat a granola bar. Got to remind myself to drink a bottle of water before every stage. 15 minutes or 20 minutes before you shoot, eat a granola bar and drink a bottle of water. And sometimes you don't feel like you need it, but you do, especially if it's hot out.
I found myself in that trap too, of you don't think you need it. You're like, my stage has been going really well. I'm keeping up like my nutrition, my water. This last stage, we just have one more stage.
Yep, I'll make it.
Yep. I can't tell you how many times I've done that.
Had a good first day, right? Get done with the first day. I'm like, all right, that worked. What did I do? So the first night I sit down, I'm like, all right, what did I do today that went well? Did this. Okay, let's do that again tomorrow. Get up, walk stages, start shooting again. But the worst part about the second day was that we didn't start till noon. And so you're kind of like still riding on the high of day 1.
Right.
And you got to sit for the first 5 hours of the day. And you're like, all right, when are we going to start? When are we going to start? And then the anticipation, and then like the build up of waiting to get to where you're going to shoot.
Sure.
Trying to keep like those nerves under wrap, trying to keep in mind, like even though you didn't shoot the morning, you still have to stay hydrated and you still have to stay nourished.
So where were you physically during the morning?
We actually, one cool thing about the Hornady match is that there's a huge vendor area, and so we set up a vendor tent actually at the match, right, kind of a commons area where a lot of people will come through, and so the match is split up into morning and evening squads. So typically what happens is somewhere around midday you get this big rush of people that come through, and then after the morning squads are done, they'll come through and they'll come to your booth and look at products. So we displayed a bunch of the new products, the Strike Eagle 1-8s, the Gen 2 PSTs, the AMG UH1 that we were talking about, the holographic sight, and then we displayed the new Fury binoculars, the range-finding binoculars. So we had a little table set out, passing out hats, like had backup switch view levers in case people broke them off, like all kinds of different, knickknacks and doodads and lickies and chewies, like Maxwell likes to call them. So we primarily sat at a booth, which is not really good for you if you're getting ready to go out and shoot. That's kind of that. It brings me back to playing baseball, the anticipation that you have when you're like in a doubleheader and there's a team playing before you, or you're at a tournament and all you have to do for the first 5 hours is watch another game. Yeah,
because you're still sitting out there in the sun.
Yep.
You're either sitting or standing, and either one of those is having an effect on your, your back, your legs, whatever you want to, whatever parts are normally giving you any kind of trouble. So there is the potential to become tight and stiff, and then now you got to perform. Now you got to run, right?
And my wife is a physical therapist. I was telling you about, and the one thing she's, as her background before physical therapy, she had to get a degree before she could go for physical therapy. That background was sports medicine, and so she's kind of like, this is my competitive outlet, right? This is what I do now. I'm not by any means a super athletic guy, but like it's still a sport where you have to, stretch and stay in shape. And so she's telling me that like, hey, when you're sitting for several hours before you shoot, you should get up and go for a jog, do your stretches, get up, go for a jog, get your blood pumping. So, we're sitting there, it's 90 degrees, you're in a tent, but it's still hot out. So trying to stay hydrated, stay nourished. About an hour before we start shooting, I go for about a 10-15 minute jog just to get loosened up, do some stretching, and then like everything started to come back, and I was like, okay, now I'm feeling it. Okay,
Nice.
let's start shooting.
Now, does your wife help you out with a lot of things like that?
Yeah, I don't have any like chiropractic or physical therapy bills ever.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah, it works out. Come back from a match all tight and like muscles pulled and knees hurting, and it's like kind of free.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, did she help you out with like these are the stretches you should do beforehand? Or
Oh yeah, she's like, yeah, for sure.
so she's totally into it.
She's like
then.
my personal trainer.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. She's a gem.
That's great, man. All right, so then so it all starts coming back. You're getting hydrated. You go for your little 10-minute jog.
Yeah, I guess what it boils down to is like, I think we all know like that feeling when you shoot and you're at a major and you have a good first day. Like you don't want to lose it, right? You're like, okay, I'm off to a good start. Like, what do I got to do to not lose it? But one of the biggest things is I've found is don't think about it. Like, try not to think about it. Think about your stage that you're on. Try and get it memorized. Like, try and be 100% ready, so that if you were the first shooter on the stage, and I think that's what I've found is really, for me at least, I can't speak for other people, but I think it probably does happen, is if, let's just say you're 5 or 6 shooters down the line in a squad of 8 to 10 people, we tend to think that I got like an hour to get ready because I don't shoot for a while. And that was one of the biggest revelations I had at this match, and it might sound silly, but we had a stage. It was an all memory stage, where it's like a barrel city, right? There's barrels on top of barrels, and like you had to run. You could see several targets from 4 or 5 different places, and some of them you would be breaking the 180 if you shot it from a different place. But there was several shooting positions for several targets, and it was all memory. There was some through the barrel, there was some hidden, and like I was the first shooter on stage, and so we got to the stage. Not only is it like a memory intensive stage, like it was a memory stage. You if you didn't memorize it and your steps, then you were gonna miss targets. But I was also the first shooter, so I think the urgency to like, okay, I don't have time to waste. Like, where are my steps? Where do I need to be? Had Rob there, kind of coaching me along. He's like, hey man, I looked at this. This is a good spot to shoot this from. Here's where you should be. So, like having my watch like on a countdown, 5 minutes. Like, okay, I have to have this memorized. I need to do this, and planned out my steps, and ended up having the fastest time of the match by 4 seconds.
Wow.
And like it
4
held
seconds.
up, except like I had a FTN, which was a steel that I shot it and doubled it, and the popper didn't fall all the way over. So it wasn't that I didn't remember a target. It wasn't that I forgot it. It wasn't that I didn't spin the spinner. It wasn't that I forgot a paper target. It was that like I just failed to execute on a steel target.
Right.
But still, like I was like, man, that worked. Like the urgency there to plan, because I'm the first shooter, drove me to not mess around. Like it reminded me like, hey, you can't just say that I have an hour to plan because I'm way down in the list. And I think that was one of the biggest takeaways from the match, is that I then put that on the next 4 stages, which when we were doing the walkthrough, I was like, all right, I have to get this done before we're starting. Because I'm as guilty as anybody to have started walking a stage and been like, I'll walk this as we're resetting.
Yeah.
I'll kind of go through it in my head as we're resetting. But that was huge.
It's getting that 5 minutes beforehand and giving yourself the urgency of I've got to get this now.
One other thing, like, staying nourished and staying hydrated, I found like it's something that you're not going to feel like you need, right?
Right.
But having, all right, I'm going to drink a 20-ounce bottle of water before every stage, or a 16-ounce bottle of water 15 to 20 minutes before I shoot, and a granola bar, whether I'm hungry or not. Because my thing is, like, I don't want to eat before I shoot, right? It's going to slow me down. It's going to make me feel like I don't want to run.
Yep.
But if you do that a little bit before, you're going to have time to metabolize that, and then that's energy. I mean, it's like, it seems silly, but you need it. And then, like, we work really closely with the guys at Mountain Ops.
Mm-hmm.
And so the guys at Mountain Ops have a lot of products. You know, Andy Peterson, mutual friend of ours, he uses a lot of their products, endorses them.
All the powders.
And Andy, like, introduced me to this stuff, and he's like, dude, you got to try this, like, aiming fluid or aiming pills or something like that, he called it. It's Mountain Ops Blaze. It's like a focus. And I don't care what anybody says. You can say, like, oh, they're all the same. It's just drink 5-hour power. It's the same thing. It's not. Like, you can drink 5-hour power, and you're going to be, like, jittering like crazy.
Yeah.
You're going to be twitching. Like,
yep.
I've never found with any other products, if you take it as directed, like, I've never experienced, like, jitters or, like, feeling your heart beating out of your chest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tried. Andy gave me some Blaze when I was out there at the TPC. And, yeah, there's no jitters or anything like that. Just it felt like, you know, warm clarity and some energy.
Yeah, and that's, like, I don't like drinking coffee at matches because I don't know. It seems like if I don't drink coffee with, like, a meal, like, my stomach gets weird.
Mm-hmm.
But some of those products, I think, can really help you if you're taking them as directed and following instructions and don't, like, pound 2 bottles when it says to pound 1.
Right.
I found, you know, take it like 2 hours before you got to start shooting so that you have that energy as you're going through the day. You know, don't take it like 10 minutes before you shoot or you're going to be, like, wired. You want to have it so that you have a little time to calm down.
Right. So if we're putting this into, like, the context of rituals, then we're talking about nutrition, we're talking about hydration, and then, you know, some supplements if that's your thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, supplements, they're definitely not for everybody. I know a lot of guys that are like, nope, I won't touch it. I've been shooting like this for 10 years. It's working great. For me, the focus, like you said, is the only thing that, like, really drives me to use it, because when I'm shooting, like, long-range rifle, I found it to be incredibly helpful to help you maintain focus on the target, and just even shooting pistol, like, front sight.
Right. Okay, so we're on day 2. You've got your first stage up here, and you're thinking consistency. Like, you're looking at your bracket score overnight, if I know you, and you're thinking, like, I'm putting together a pretty good match here.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I think is some guys won't look at practice score at all during the match. They're like, nope, not going to look at it. Don't want to know. For me, like, I want to know. Even though it's inconsistent, I can still look at the people who have shot that stage and see, like, okay, where'd that line up? Okay, that guy's shooting a good match. That guy's shooting a good match. That guy's shooting a good match. And whether or not you're one of the people that doesn't like to look at scores, or if you do, I find that it motivates me. If I see somebody else isn't shooting a good match, it motivates me to keep pushing even harder. If I see somebody shooting a great match, it's like, man, I got to really start pushing it here, because that guy's shooting a heck of a match. So coming into the second day, kind of, you know, a slow start to the morning, and shoot our first stage, goes great. Second stage goes great. You have like a lunch break, come back for the second stage goes great. You're like a short break, and then you're on to the afternoon, like full on sun, like 4 o'clock beating down on you, and you're starting to get tired. Like, we shot till the afternoon squads at this match shot till like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow.
It was long days, and so you're almost like shouldn't have got up till like 10 a.m.
Yeah, no kidding.
But
how many stages was it?
So there was 4 stages, 2, so
okay,
10 stages.
Wow.
And then there was also like 4 side stages that you could shoot as well, not for score.
Right.
But like, the second day went equally as good, if not better, than the first day. And it was like, again, just staying consistent with your rituals, staying consistent with walkthroughs, staying consistent with hydration, nutrition, and the urgency of getting your walkthrough done in the time you're allotted and not telling yourself that you can be lazy with it and figure it out as you go. So that, like, the second day went great, and then it kind of starts to become like, okay, not what can I do to push harder, but like, what can I do to not lose all this progress that I've made?
Right.
And then your practice score stuff starts to become more relevant as you're looking at it, and you're like, okay, yeah, this could turn out to be a good match. And so that starts to get to you. And I think, like, just like when you're looking at a target and, like, saying, I'm going to shoot that target right there, and then I'm going to transition to this target. Like, when you're sitting there after 2 days of a good match, and you're like, all right, I'm going to shoot that stage good tomorrow, I'm going to shoot that stage good tomorrow. Whether it be target to target
Right.
or stage to stage, you have to have that in your mind ahead of time.
That you're going to shoot good. So then you go back to the hotel, you make sure you get your rest.
Yeah, we went over to one of the guys from Hornady's house for a quick dinner that night, and nothing too crazy. Sat out around bonfire for a couple hours. We were in bed by 10 o'clock.
Nice.
And we had to shoot, I think we shot at like 9 in the morning, 9 and 10 or something like that. And so, so my first stage on Sunday, I was excited. I was like, all right, I'm not going to let the jitters get to me. I'm not going to do this. And it might not seem like a lot for a lot of the people listening. Like, okay, if you can put together a top 10 match finish, like for some guys, that's just where it starts. Like some guys, that's the baseline.
That's literally for 9 other guys.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, top 10 joke.
Oh, sorry. I've only been there once, so I wouldn't know. But yeah, some guys, like, if I'm not top 10, that's just not acceptable.
Yeah, those guys don't listen to this podcast. It's okay. This is for everybody else.
We shoot the first stage, and this, like, at this point, like, I'm like, okay, that went pretty good. Like, it felt good. And R was like, that's the fastest time we had of the match. Of course, there's a great squad behind us.
Right.
The whole Benelli team's behind us, so they were still going to shoot it. I'm like, okay, that's good. That's good. There's been 200-some shooters have shot this stage. I'm sitting pretty good on that. And then, like, the last stage is one of the more, I wouldn't say the more technical, but it was definitely a stage you could lose it on. It was kind of a memory stage as well. You just had to have your spots planned out. It was a rooftop stage.
Oh, yeah.
And it was kind of weird because it's a great match. One of my, like, only things that I would ever change about the match was all the guns are basically unloaded starts.
Mm-hmm.
Your shotgun can be cruiser ready, but your pistol, rifle are both no mag inserted, unloaded gun. And so they were staged in barrels, and you had to go retrieve them. And what happened was, like, you would have to run to one side of the rooftop to shoot, and then run back and dump it in the same barrel. Run to the other side to retrieve the gun, run back, shoot your way back to the barrel, dump that, and then finish with your pistol. And so it was like, it was a match. It was a stage you could lose it on, definitely. It was not like okay, this is a fast hoser stage. It was definitely a stage you can lose it on. So
what's your thought then as, you're, resetting, you're preparing to shoot, and you've already put together 9 good stages?
My biggest thing was, like, coming up to the last stage, I'm like, all right, what is it that I'm forgetting? Like, what has worked this whole match?
Right.
And then I was like, oh, shoot, I got to hydrate. Oh, I got to, I need to eat a granola bar. I'm not hungry. You don't need that. Like, just one more stage. And that started to kind of kick in. And I was like, that's what gets me every time.
Yeah.
Is thinking that there's just one more stage left. And it was in the 90s. It was no clouds in the sky. It was humid. And so I, like, when you get dehydrated, you make those bad decisions.
Exactly.
And
Step off the path.
No, I forced myself to do it. Like, and it was like, this is dumb. Like, this is kind of witchcraft. I don't need to be doing this. Like, but again, I was like, no, let's work the whole match. Let's just keep it. Let's try it out. And then then it's like as you get closer to shooting. I've never been here before, right? So I've never been at this point where I could have a top 10 match finish.
Right.
And was actually cognizant of it going into the last stage. But enough people come up to you and they're like, hey, man, you're shooting a good match. And you start to think about it. That's not good for you. Even if you like to look at your scores on practice score, which I do, knowing that going into your last stage can do a couple of things to you. Number one, it can cause you to absolutely just drop it and drop the ball, fumble, load, do it. And so I think that I learned definitely at this match more than any other match I have is that you have to stay focused because if you're thinking about this last stage and what it could do to your scores more than anything, like you're going to screw it up. But if you're not thinking about it, you could also screw it up too because you could be lackadaisical on it.
Sure. Well, there's also the potential for God, I'm trying to remember what Lenny Basham calls it, but in other circles it's called your self-image. I've never shot top 10 in a match before.
So I can't.
I'll probably get 13th again.
Yep.
So I can't, right? So your subconscious mind is going to do something to sabotage your match
right
on the last stage. So fumbling that quad is not you actually physically fumbling a quad. It's your brain screwing with you, trying to hold you back into the top 20 that you've been in before because it's comfortable there.
Right. And I've had conversations with guys like this before because I've been frustrated with being on the edge of the bubble for the last couple of seasons. You know, I've had several matches that I could have put it together and still, like, I think the biggest thing was I told myself that I wasn't a top 10 shooter.
Right.
And it's just like you find a way to throw in a bad stage here because you told yourself, like,
you do.
It couldn't happen.
Yeah, well, it's goes back to a conversation that you and I had earlier when we were on our way out to the new building. It's like if you don't believe in the work and the commitment of marriage, your marriage will not work out, right?
Yeah, if you tell yourself it's not going to work out, it's not going to work out.
Yeah,
because you're creating your own reality at that point.
Absolutely. So something completely unrelated to 3-gun, but an example of how you can create your own reality.
Mm-hmm.
So, Reuben, back to the match then. How did it go?
No, I mean, like, starting out the stage went great. Grabbed my rifle, shot my rifle targets. Grabbed my shotgun, shot my shotgun targets. Clean. Everything was clean. You know how shotguns, like, when they have shells in them, they're heavier?
Yeah, they're heavy on the front end.
Yeah. So I went to dump my shotgun in the barrel and, like, bounces out. And I, like, caught it with my right foot. And I reached down with my left hand, ensuring not to sweep myself with my pistol. Made sure it wasn't moving, and then shot through the pistol clean. And I was like, I literally just, like, almost jinxed myself because I was so nervous. I was, like, on the brink of, like, complete match DQ because I was sure something was going to happen. You know, and I was telling myself something was going to happen.
Yep.
And so, but no, I ended up shooting the rest of the stage and finishing out, and it wasn't my best stage of the match, but it also was consistent with the rest of the match I had been shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, of course, you know, with 2 more squads that needed to shoot the stages I just shot for the second half of the morning, which is how it went. You kind of shot first half of the morning and second half of the morning. I was definitely, I felt good, but and I mean, sitting down thinking about it was like, all right, I did everything I could have. I had 1 5-second penalty in the match and had 1 stage that maybe I would have liked to shoot over, but it wasn't bad. It was still consistent with the rest of the match. I think I just could have shot it better.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, you know, I was happy with where I was, and yeah. Ended up waiting, you know, we ended up waiting another, like, 3 hours, which is the worst.
Yeah, because then you're just hitting refresh.
Or going back, and I was actually went back and watched the guys shoot the stages after I had, and was just kind of, like, listening to times, you know. It's like, yes, that was good. But listening to times, and I was like, okay. So the rest of the match was definitely competing closer to the top of my ability, and then hanging in there even on the last two stages of the day, because I had shot 8 good stages over the past 2 days. And
Right.
so just keeping consistent with the rest of the match. They didn't have to be burned down. But the one was a stage win overall for the whole match, and I was like, that's a first for me, to have a major stage win at a 3-gun match. I had done it a couple times at shotgun matches, but at a 3-gun match. So that was cool. That was something I accomplished. That wasn't a goal that I hadn't even set that goal.
Yeah, that's great.
So, but yeah, then they had the award ceremony and ended up being 5th in tactical and 8th overall, and so accomplished 2 goals. One was to have a 5th place major sometime this year, match finish.
Yeah.
And then to be top 10 at this match. So I was extremely it felt really, really good, coming out of that and saying like, all right, I feel like I've figured out at least part of what my formula is for me as a shooter.
Right.
To have a consistent match and to be able to put together stages that I'm comfortable with my stage plan. I'm not going to second guess myself on, what part of the stage I need to do what, or, where do I do this, where do I do that. Everything locked in before you shoot. And that was another thing too, is like having one stage plan.
Mm-hmm.
Not having like, okay, if I fumble this reload, I'm going to have to reload 2 more over here. And then like telling yourself, no, just don't fumble the reload.
Yeah.
Like that was something Jesse Tischhauser told me a couple years ago at the shotgun match in Minnesota. He was like, hey, if you don't, screw this up, you won't have to load any more shells down on the other end of the stage. I'm like, yeah, but I can throw a couple insurance shells in just in case I do. And I had like 4 stages in a row that I ended with like 8 or more in the gun. Yeah. He literally like hits me on the back of the head and he's like, don't be an idiot. Don't load so many shells.
It's the worst when you're finished shooting and you unload like 6 to 8 shells in your shotgun.
Man.
You're like, God, that is so much wasted time.
It is. And the thing that I've really like in part of my shotgun shooting and training doing that, you can shoot accurately a lot faster than you can load accurately.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That is one thing that I would tell any of the listeners out here. Practicing shotgun reloading is great. You need to be able to do it. You need to be able to do it without like looking down at the shotgun, because you need to be looking for your next targets.
Mm-hmm.
But shooting the shotgun accurately and at a good pace, but accurately is so much more important than how fast can I load 8 shells. Because I don't care who you are, you can shoot a lot more accurately than you can bring the gun down, load 4, and shoot 4 more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely something that.
But I can quad load 8 shells in 3 seconds. But you can shoot 8 shells in about 2.5 seconds accurately. It's like if you take your time shotgun shooting, because everybody thinks shotgun like, oh, I just got to point it in the general direction.
Yep.
Before you know it, you've missed 2 of your shells, and that throws out your whole load plan, and all of your caddies are now in complete disarray. You load slugs when you don't need slugs, and you load buckshot that you didn't even bring on the stage. Found it on the ground.
Yeah, and hopefully you have enough to finish the stage.
But not planning to miss is such a huge thing.
Yeah.
Don't plan to miss. Bring extra in case you do, but don't plan to miss.
I like it. Yeah, the extra quad or 2 quads adds up on a stage, especially short stages.
Yeah, 40-second stage where your top, if your top time is 40 seconds, and then there's 10 guys between 40 and 45, yeah, an extra 3 seconds just puts you out of the top 15.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it adds up. It's huge. So what are some other things that you discovered in this match as far as like playing to your strengths and things that work for you that you need to do next time and on a more consistent basis?
Well, there really wasn't much. There weren't many choices, like, as to what gun you could use, right? There was really only, like, I think 2 stages where you could shoot a couple of the targets with either pistol or rifle, or a couple with either shotgun or pistol. There's really very little choice as to what you could do. So, whereas like to a 3-gun nation match, when you go to a regional, you could shoot half the stage with pistol and the other half with shotgun, or you could shoot the first half with shotgun and then the last half with, rifle or whatever it might be.
Right.
That's one thing where you'll go and you'll see a lot of these guys play into their strengths. And if they're a Grandmaster pistol shooter, man, they've got like a 500 round pistol match and about 30 bird shot, and like you can tell because that guy shoots pistol better. Or the same with rifle, or same with shotgun. There wasn't much of that at all at this match. So the choices as to playing to your strengths in terms of what gun you want to engage target with was like a minimal decision at all. I mean, you really didn't. And there was definite advantages to shooting one or the other, so you knew. I guess the one thing I've been training some local guys here shooting, and kind of like we were talking earlier about training sometimes helps you as a shooter because it helps you remember fundamentals.
Yeah.
And another good friend of mine, he's told me this time and time again. It never really clicked until I started training new shooters. Movement is one of the most simple things within the sport, because you can shoot a whole stage without a gun. You can walk through a whole stage without a gun, and the gun doesn't, like shooting. You might have to be posted up while you're shooting, but going from position to position, like that shouldn't slow you down. Like it shouldn't matter that you're shooting a match. Like you should be, if it's like magically, if this wasn't a 3-gun match, I would be able to move from this box to this box really fast, but put a gun in my hand and now I'm like jogging at a third the pace that I can normally run. Like a shooter that I really respect, he told me this once, and he was like, "You've been running since you were 3. Don't jog between positions. Like move quickly." And that's, wasted movement. I think not being efficient in movement has been something that I've worked on a lot. And so keeping that in mind, not just being slow between shooting boxes or going through the stage. Pick out your shooting spots, pick out your positions where you're going to shoot from, or positions where you're going to shoot on the move, and get from spot to spot quickly. Because it doesn't really matter that you have a gun in your hand. As long as you're being safe with it, you should be able to cut time on movement.
Right.
And one of the newer shooters I've been coaching a lot, this was also his first 3-gun match. And I can tell you that he shot great. But one thing I noticed was he moved like a champ. Like, I told him the same thing that I've been taught by other people that I just haven't really put into practice, is that you've been moving since like you were 4 years old. You've been running since you were 4 years old. It's not hard. That's one area where you can cut time off. You don't have to be a top 10 3-gunner to move from box to box efficiently.
Right.
So
just got to want it.
Yeah, absolutely. And have it in mind too, like visualize it, like where do my feet need to go.
Yes, so many times I feel like when I move from shooting positions or something, I'm trying to do something in between, reload a magazine or quad load or something like that I end up going like way too slow. And when I'm done with that action, now I've got like a lot of ground to make up.
Yeah, and the one thing that's interesting is a lot of times guys will, like, you don't ever really want to be flat-footed stopped, right? If you can help it. But there's certain things that have been, I just watching myself shoot on tape and then watching other people shoot, is if you got to reload your pistol between one shooting position and another, don't like take the whole time it takes you to jog from that. Like, reload your pistol, but while you're doing it, move efficiently, but not too fast where you're going to screw up your reload. And then once the magazine is in, sprint. Yeah. Like, don't jog slowly the whole way and drag out that reload.
One long motion.
Just get it done and move.
All right.
And that, it's so simple, right? Talking about it. But executing it while you're on the clock is another thing, because before you know it, you're throwing like a fumbled mag somewhere and like all of a sudden you're screwing up. But another thing that I've really noticed like has helped me is like with pistol and rifle reloads. I think we all think it's so simple, like it's so elementary. Of course you can reload your pistol. You've been doing it in USPSA for how long? But if you fumble that, like you're wasting time. And if you kind of losing my train of thought here, but that's something that you also need to visualize. Just like you visualize shooting targets and the targets going down or being neutralized.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's one thing I do, is, visualizing in a row what targets I'm going to shoot in what order. But you never really visualize a mag change.
Right.
And so that's something I've gone to doing now, is like visualizing exactly how that magazine change is going to take place, where are my feet going to be when I do it, and then cutting off time, shaving off time by maximizing my efficiency on that, like, and the movement in that stage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. It might be 1 second saved in reloading your magazine. It might be another half a second saved in movement. And by the time you get to the end of the stage, you saved a couple of seconds on a 42 or 43 second stage. That can be a pretty good, good amount of points.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're in Wisconsin. You guys have some harsh winters. I know because my brother sends me pictures of his thermometer in his car every morning.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do in the wintertime to try to keep up the 3-gun momentum and the training? Is dry fire part of that?
Yeah, I think a lot of times dry fire is a big part of it. There's a lot of things you can do, I think, that can really affect you and benefit you in terms of practice, and it doesn't have to be shooting matches. And I sometimes kind of feel for the guys that are in other southern states where they don't get time to dry fire because they're shooting matches all year long, and that's not a bad thing. Always can be if you're not taking time to practice your fundamentals, because we all you might not ever forget to ride a bike, but you might forget things that make you more efficient at it. And so some of the stuff I do, I mean, to keep practiced on rifle shooting offhand, which is something that I think is an aspect of my game, at least for me, that takes a lot of consistent practice. I'll shoot PCC USPSA matches, PCC indoor. That's all offhand pretty much. So I'll do that. Stay consistent on my rifle shooting. Probably about once a month, do a couple hours of whether it be 2 1-hour sessions or once a month. Just staying sharp on shotgun loading. I have a ton of dry fire targets set up in the basement. So I think at the point where sometimes you'll start practicing something, like I'll set up my dry fire targets up on the wall in my reloading room and practice that. And then when it gets to a point where you're like, okay, I got this down, do it more. Because if you're comfortable with it, like, you can lose it.
Right.
So the other thing I do, we'll do like long-range rifle shooting. Winter's a great time to do it. Humidity is usually pretty low. Rifles shoot usually pretty awesome in the winter, it seems like, at least. Maybe it's just that you're not moving and your blood is moving so slowly that you're not actually moving the gun when you feel like you are. So you shoot a lot more steadily. Can't
feel the trigger.
Yeah, it's the frostbite is a pain, but it's worth it. The long-range rifle shooting is something I do a lot. I don't do a lot of pistol shooting outdoors. I'll do a lot of pistol shooting indoors on indoor league. I think a shotgun is probably the thing that suffers the most, really, throughout the winter months up here. So that unfortunately doesn't get as much attention.
Right.
But the other two aspects of the game you can do, and staying in shape, it's a big thing. Keeping loose, keeping on the treadmill. Your movement is a big part of your game, and if you can shave off a couple seconds off of every stage versus the next guy, like, it adds up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Reuben, congratulations on your finish at the Zombies in the Heartland match.
Thank you.
It's like Hornady Bandit.
Invitational Open.
Yeah. And
US inaugural.
yeah, I'm pretty pumped for you because you had told me about your goal in the past, and so it's great to hear that you achieved it. One of the things that you and I discussed on the phone last week is I was telling you the story of powerlifter AJ Roberts. You know, he was the first person to bench, squat, and deadlift a total of 1,600 pounds. And yeah, yeah. And, you know, he had lifted his entire life. And when he went to Westside Barbell, that's when he created the goal of 1,600 pounds. It was his coach's goal. His coach wasn't able to do it, so he took it upon himself. 5 years later, he did it. 5 years later, right?
Ugh.
So
Sounds familiar.
yeah. I heard an interview with him where he was talking about it, and he said that when he stepped off the platform and you know, his vision came back from that squat and he was able to see again, and he realized that he had hit that 1,600 pound total, and he came down and you know, the cheers stopped and they moved on to the next lifter. That he immediately felt unfulfilled and directionless because he had no goal. So I know.
So what's the new goal?
I know from you that you're a goal-oriented person and that you work toward goals and that you work best with goals. So I would imagine by now, since we're a couple weeks out from that match, that you've already created a new goal. So what's the new goal?
Well, I think that I prematurely hit a goal of mine, being finishing in the top 5. Okay, so that was a goal that I'd set and wanted to work towards, in hopes that it would kind of help me accomplish the top 10 goal. You know, the whole shoot for the moon thing.
Right.
But being realistic, like, that was still a goal for this year. And I just had not expected to, you know, accomplish that within the first few matches of the year. So exactly as you said, have already started thinking about new goals. We have the Tri-Gun, the Vortex Nordic Tri-Gun up in Minnesota. Man, is it already next weekend?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Wait, no.
Not this
not
weekend.
this weekend. Next weekend. Holy cow! Yeah, it's coming fast.
I was gonna say you're here, so we must be like about a week and a half away. So with another big match coming up, man, I gotta tell you about last year's match.
Okay. Last
year's Tri-Gun was another match that, and this is also a funny Rob story. That was another match that I'd. It's in my home turf. It's in my home area. I wanted to do good. Had some family there that come from a ways away to kind of watch. They don't watch much of my shooting stuff. And so I was like, yeah, I gotta, you know, perform and do well. And I'd also put together a really good match at this match, and it wasn't very consistent. There were some heroes and there were some zeros, but the heroes were good and the zeros weren't that bad. And so I was like, I came into the last day of the match, which was also a 4-4-2. And I staged DQ because I wasn't paying attention. It was my fault. My shotgun locked back on the last shot, and I put it in the dump barrel. Shell had come onto the lifter, and it locked the bolt open. And then when I put it in the dump barrel, without putting the safety on, which wouldn't have taken me much time, bolt closed in the dump barrel on a hot chamber. And so I stage DQ'd. And our buddy Rob, who is Rob Tate, he's very good at telling you this kind of stuff. He said, you know, if you wouldn't have effed up on that stage, you would have been at 7th place.
Oh, wow.
Because I ended up finishing the stage. You know, like, they
Right.
didn't stop me mid-stage. They just went back, and when we cleared the shotgun, they're like, oh, this was hot. So I had a time.
Yeah.
You know, I recorded a time for the stage, but then ended up throwing it away. And so at the end of the match, Rob, like he always does, you know, went through and tallied it up like where I would have been. He's like, yeah, you'd have been 7th place. And I was like, great.
That's a rough one.
So that would have been a really good one. It didn't bump me too far back. I think I ended up 17th. But anyways, yeah, so we've got the match coming up next weekend. And I guess really the new goal isn't as much about, like, what's the next step, what's the next piece of the pie. It's about continuing to perform at that level, continuing to basically shoot to my abilities and stay focused at a match, be consistent. That's a big thing. And for me, I guess now the new consistency, I guess for me, I would hope to shoot in the top 10 at this next match as well. We'll see. I think I can do it. I'm not looking at what's slowing me down. I'm looking at where I can excel. And so that's really the new goal is, I think, to stay in the top 10. And that might seem like you're going backwards. I mean, it might seem kind of counterintuitive, but like being realistic about your goals is also a big thing. And I think for me, to be able to perform consistently is a realistic goal. It's not, this new goal won't all be about what's the next step I can take. At some point, I'll probably set a goal for myself to be in the top 3. And I think that's a realistic goal. However, knowing myself and my abilities, I don't know that that's a realistic goal for this next match. But the goal is to be consistent, stay consistent, shoot consistent matches. And you probably know as well as I do, as well as everybody listening, if you look at scores and practice score of the guys that are in the top 10 or the top 5, they don't all have stage wins on every stage. The guy that has a top 10 on every stage probably wins the match. If he doesn't have any zeros, if he doesn't have any huge flubs, he probably wins the match. If he's got a handful of top 10s and a couple of top 5s and maybe a couple of stage wins. So the goal is to be consistent. The goal is to shoot to the abilities that I can and continue to make myself better and not have bad stages, which is what it all boils down to.
It's true.
So,
well, Reuben, I like it. I like that you have realistic, consistent goals to shoot realistically and consistently as well. And man, it was great hearing the story, and I really enjoyed my time with Vortex here today. So, thank you for being such a gracious host. And before we sign off, do you have a final thought that you can share with the audience?
Oh man. Well, number one, it's been super good having you here. Looking forward to the next couple of weeks having you up in the Midwest.
Heck yeah.
It's going to be a good time. And you even said heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. We'll get you some hot dish and some cheese curds and maybe even take you out on a boat.
A what now?
A boat. My biggest piece of advice, not that I'm qualified to give advice, but find out what works for you. Find out what your system is. You know, I think every system out there, like you and I talked, you don't have to be the original thought for everything.
Right.
You know, it's like everybody always says, well, I can't take credit for this, but here's what works for me.
Right.
And I think that knowing what works for you and figuring it out and putting together a plan before you go to a match of how am I going to stay consistent at this event? How am I going to shoot to my abilities every stage? And so, you know, figuring out what your system is, I think.
I like it. Well, Reuben, this has been a great time, man. I enjoyed our first talk when you were on. We talked about the sponsorships in the sponsorship episode, and that was a super popular episode on the podcast. So this has been cool to get to know you as a shooter, and it's cool to see a guy that has so much to do with a lot of the things that we as three-gunners see in the industry and in these matches is actually a three-gunner as well. So it's cool to have one of our own on the inside. So
yeah, don't tell anybody. I don't want them to catch on. That's one cool thing about Vortex is that I think that whether it be Paul being on product development on hunting products, has a 23-year background as a guide, a hunting guide.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Scott being on product development on the precision side of things, he's a top 10 PRS shooter. I give a little bit of feedback here and there when I'm in the office, and not going to pretend like there's a million great ideas that all came from me, but Vortex is really good at having people in the company that are working basically to develop products for the end use of, you know, what that person, you know, does. So we have a lot of people that their free time, their hobby, or maybe it's even more than a hobby, gets brought into product development and brought into the products that our customers are asking for. And so we also have a great shooting team out there. You know, we have a ton of input from guys that are out shooting matches. whether it be F-class, tactical shotgun, 3-gun, pistol shooting, PRS, and they're providing input to us too. And so we definitely appreciate the support the shooting community gives us, and we will always try and give back. That's about what I got.
I love it, man. Well, it's a great way to end the show. Reuben, thanks again for having me here, man, and thanks for being on the 3-Gun Show.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. We appreciate it.
Hey, before you take off, check out the show notes at 3gunshow.com/episode 139 for links to things that we discussed in this podcast, including all the optics that Reuben rattled off there, and to purchase your own 3-Gun Show logo tee. As usual, this podcast is brought to you by Armalite. Armalite likes the community that we are building here at the 3-Gun Show, and we have partnered up for 2017. To be sure that this is a win for you as well, Armalite has allowed me to get special pricing for listeners on their line of 3-gun rifles, both the 13.5 and the 18-inch, as well as their competition handguards, gas blocks, and tunable muzzle brakes. Now, I got to shoot my 13.5-inch Armalite 3-gun rifle for this first time in a major match at the Tri-Gun, and I was pretty impressed. I had gotten used to shooting my 18-inch rifle in the last year, and I was a little worried about hacking 5 inches off of the barrel length and still being able to consistently hit targets, at the 3-gun distances that we shoot and call long range. But topped with the Vortex Gen 2 PST 1-6 and zeroed for 77 grain Nexus ammo, I got first run hits on 275 to 375 yard targets off the top of a car, and it was super fast and easy to handle on the base stage as well. So if you were interested in like a 13.5-inch rifle, but you were kind of on the fence for whatever reason, I say go for it. Thumbs up from Dave. And if you're in the market for a rifle or components to build your own, just email me, dave@3gunshow.com, and I will hook you up. Like I said, I'm back on the road now and traveling the country and bringing the good times back to you in podcast form. I will have all of this Armalite gear with me at matches for you to check out. So when you see me at a match, just ask, and I'll be happy to show you. And you can even shoot my rifle if you like. Quick reminder that if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, subscribe in iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcast content so you can always get the very latest. And leave a review if you got time. It really helps the show to rise in the rankings and then help shooters like you and I find it. Thank you so much for downloading, listening, and subscribing to the show. I'm Dave Hartman, and I'll see you on the range.
If you are finished, unload, show clear.